This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon everybody. Welcome to our sunset safari here at Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands. We're coming to you from South Africa and I'm sitting at Gowrie Dam having a look at what might be here for the afternoon. It's a very, very hot afternoon. It's about 33 degrees Celsius. We are baking in the sun. My name is Tess. I'm going to be your guide on safari this afternoon. Behind the camera is VK. And we've decided to start our day right here at the waterhole just to see if there might be some elephants coming down. I did actually hear some earlier. I thought I could hear some trumpeting from my bedroom, which is not too far away. But I think the elephants might still be in the drainage line up at the top of the dam and have not come down yet. Maybe it's still a little bit too hot. We are going to be shade hopping as much as we can today, considering the heat. But it's just a lovely day to be sitting watching the different bird life and animal life at the dam. You can see there's a greenbacked heron on the bank that's just nice and relaxedly standing there waiting to get some food. It's not actually on the water's edge, it's just further back, but I think it's trying to get some food in the little bit of greenery that's growing on the edge. And it's a perfect day for hunting. The glare on the water works to the heron's advantage. This is one of my favorite heron species, and the smallest that we get here. Carla, I agree. I think birding is definitely the best way you can start a drive. It's lovely to be able to just take in a few of the smaller things. Normally we do also hear a few more bird calls around Gowrie Dam, but it's just too hot today, I think, for the birds to be out and about in force, other than our aquatic and wading species. We would love to hear from you. So if you do have any questions or comments, please send them in. You can find us at #WildEarth on Twitter. If you're under the age of 18, pop us an email on kidsquestions@wildearth.tv, or you can register on the WildEarth website. Head over to the channel page and submit your questions there. Myself, John T and JP are looking forward to hearing from you. We are in for quite a fun afternoon. I think when it starts cooling down, we're going to have a lot more animals out and about. We have seen the hippo coming up and down in the water a little bit. Still a bit too hot to stay up consistently, but myself and John T are going to be playing the bird call game with you a bit later as well. And we're going to be looking to see if we can find any of the spots that we had this morning. We are very lucky that we have a bit of a breeze that's cooling us down today. And speaking of the breeze and cooling us down, I think it's time to have a look at how hot it really is here today. Let's have a look at the weather.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is cooking this afternoon. Myself and Gert, we're just staring off. Looks like we're just staring off into the bushes. But we actually got a report that tortoise pan, a male leopard, was lying here this morning. There's actually a culvert that goes under the road here, which is just looks like that. See that dark hole there? And we came and stopped here, and we were kind of thinking, I wonder what's here. and then he jumped up, and he's gone to where we can't actually see him anymore. But there's a bit of curiosity with me. I'm trying to figure out why he was lying here the whole day. But afternoon, my name's Jonty, got Gert on the camera, and we're going to be cruising around, see what we can find this afternoon. I want to just double check that he moves away, because it's interesting, for a big male leopard, he's been here the whole day. So it makes me think that he's potentially got something to eat. We're in the gully. So we'll have to, it's so thick. If he has stashed something here, it's very, very well hidden. So surprising that he would keep it on the ground. Maybe just eating some, making it a bit lighter before he puts it as a rock. So I think the next time when you go to Tess, I'm just going to poke my head over this hole here and see if there is something, because then it'll be worth coming back here a bit later. And we know tortoise pan can be a bit weird and not like to be seen. Thanks, Warboy. It's good to be back. You can see where we're looking now. Look how thick the bush is at the moment. It's so tough. Because the leopard jumped up, and I saw where he kind of stopped, but he obviously lay down, and he will know that we cannot see him at all. And for him, that's perfect. I just want to check the binoculars.
I don't know what is up with Jonty's luck as he arrives, but wow, if that is a leopard, well done, Jonty. I'm still sitting at Gowrie Dam, but I've changed our perspective, our view a little bit. We are sitting on the side of the dam in the shade and just watching as the hippo is popping up and down. We're also watching where the different birds are. I did see a glimpse of our little Egyptian goose family. And it's just a lovely way to start our afternoon by taking in some of the scenery from a nice shady patch. So while we sit here, you'll hear a few different birds calling. Things like hardy-daws, birchall starlings, occasionally a pied kingfisher, occasionally the Egyptian geese, and a few others mixed in. So let's just have a listen and start our afternoon with a little silent moment, getting ready for the excitement later. So many different birds calling, even more than I expected actually. The woodland kingfisher, red-billed buffalo weaver, they all seem to be joining in this afternoon. Alright, so it seems like Gowrie Dam is the place to be this afternoon. We've got the hippo up and down, we've got some impalas and a nyala that have been frequenting the top end of the dam. A green-backed heron, our little Egyptian goose family. Pied kingfisher, woodland kingfisher, blacksmith lapwings, red-billed buffalo weavers. There's just an explosion of life here at the moment. And what BK has actually just noticed is there is an elephant behind us. So I'm actually going to drive over there and see if we can catch up with it. It looks like it's just enjoying the shade a little bit. So I'm going to do that and then come back to the dam once we've had a look at the elephant. Hopefully the elephant actually comes down. I think that would be lovely if we got to see it coming to the dam and actually having a drink. By the looks of it, it looks as though it's coming from Chimbeta House. There's a pan in front there, and I think maybe they've already had a drink. Because elephants are a little bit fussy, they prefer to drink that water to the dam water because the dam water is quite dirty. So possibly the elephants have already been there, but now they're just feeding on the edges of the dam, enjoying the breeze and the fresh greenery with all the moisture here. Oh yay, there's more than one. That's exciting. I am loving all of the birds already. Waikisha, it is very pretty green grass at the moment. It's probably the thickest or the most lush the bush has been in maybe 8 years or so. It's about the number. We can actually start with that one, BK. That's a good idea. So they've definitely been to the water, everybody. Have a look at those nice wet patches on the side of this elephant as it's pushing its face into a guarri bush. Trying to get some shade. So it does look like there are a few more elephants with it, but they are quite well hidden in the thickets. General sense of direction though is hopefully towards us. It looks like it is, but you never know. They might decide to go back up to quarantine. I was expecting to see quite a few elephants on quarantine in the shade of the marulas, but no such luck. They're all down here. Looks like it's with an African wattle as well. It's a fairly young elephant. I'm wondering if there are any calves with this herd. Oh, what a peaceful afternoon already. Elephants feeding, birds calling. You'll probably find for the rest of the afternoon these elephants are going to be sticking to the shade. But these elephants are much more likely to be moving on cooler days because they've got such dark and thick skin and massive bodies. They can overheat pretty quickly, and that's why they've adapted to have those very, very big ears. So this elephant, yay, it's coming this way. You can see as it's walking, it's flapping its ears. It's just trying its best to cool down and cool the blood that's pumping through the body using that very thin skin behind the ear by pumping it over the wind or flapping it over the wind. On a cool day, there's no need to do that. They don't have to stick to the shade. They don't have to flap their ears as much, so they're using less energy, which means they can move a lot more. And so elephant activity is much more likely to happen more on cooler days. So the elephants in particular have been very, very popular for the last week in the rainy weather. But on hot days, they tend to either like the water holes or the very, very big trees where there's a bit of shade. And you'll find they'll become they almost look like they're sleeping on their feet when they're under the shade of a big tree and it's that time of the day when it's just too hot. They don't even want to feed. They just stand and flap their ears with their eyes closed. Not really sleeping, but I suppose you can say taking a little bit of a miniature nap. Elephants don't sleep altogether that much. Wondering where the others have gone. I think they're a little bit further on. Let's try a little bit forward and see. So we've got some elephants, it looks like with some calves in the front there. And then this one that's been hiding in the shade that we were seeing earlier. I'm very surprised that that very big female is out in the open. I would expect that such a big female would be in the shade more than the sun, but perhaps having wet herself behind the ears, she's feeling cool enough to stand in the sun for now. She does look like she's having a bit of a dust bath. She's picking up bits and pieces off the floor and throwing them over her slightly wet body. Ah, there are the calves. They do look like they're coming this way. Yes, they're coming towards the road. Maybe they're going to spend the day in the drainage line. See what they do as they approach. I will be so happy if they do come down to the dam, but I really don't think that they will, considering they're already wet. Angie, we have been incredibly spoiled with elephant sightings recently. I don't know how we got so lucky, but we did. The weather has been playing havoc with a lot of the normal animal activity though, so it's been very lucky for us to spend so much time. Oh, she's rumbling with the elephants. So I'm not sure if she's a bit wary. There are some impalas in the road, but I'm not sure if she's just a bit wary of that as she approaches the drainage line with such a young calf. I also wonder how she lost that tusk. Possibly feeding. Ah, she's found some shade. Yes, she's going back to feeding. So I'm going to get a little bit closer, reposition a bit. And in the meantime, I'll send you over to Jonty on a bumble.
Oh, we are going to some shade. So our plan was to go towards Twin Dams. That's where we're going to start. But we just thought we'd take that chance by Tortoise Pan. So now we're actually driving on the break. We're not far from Twin Dams, where we'll go and get in the shade and see what's happening around the waterhole. I just can't believe how thick and lush the vegetation is, even more than when I was here in December. It really is looking so good. It's always that like catch-22. People often ask, what's the best time of year? And summer is so beautiful because it's so green, but it makes it tricky. Very tricky sometimes to spot things. I wouldn't mind finding an elephant swimming in the water. Australia as always, spots would be fantastic. Gert and I are lucky, we've already had our spots for the afternoon. We had our brief little view. But it's also worth, I'm sure Tess will probably go. If she doesn't, I definitely will. But go into that last area where we left Tavangumi this morning. I'd like to think that it was so warm that he probably wouldn't have moved too far, but then later this evening he might start continuing his search for some food. And we just got to hope that he doesn't go too far north, because then he's going to cross out of Djuma. So we might, sometimes when we go down this little dip here, our signal wobbles a little bit. So don't panic if you lose us. It's just the signal. While we carry on towards Twin Dams, we're going to head over to Tess and see what the elephants are doing.
Sounds like a very exciting plan, Auntie. I'm still sitting just south, actually, of Gowrie Dam, southeast, with my lovely little elephant family. It looks as though they found a bit of shade before the drainage line, luckily for me, and just enjoying feeding on this big bush willow. And if you listen, you can actually hear the branches breaking as Mum is feeding. There's more elephants coming, everybody. I don't know where they're all coming from, but I've got one coming from the right, one coming from the left, family in the middle. It's a whole reunion. Oh my goodness, we're having a bit of an interaction over here. She's actually chasing the other elephant away. Oh no, don't all go behind the quarry. So it's a young male that approached the family, and she's not tolerant of him. You can see she's still showing her ears. She's trying to get some distance for her calves. Because that young male, you'll probably find, has already been moved off from the herd, or she's busy moving him off from the herd. She's got a young calf. She can't afford to have a testosterone-filled, very strong teenager trying to play with a very young calf that's not even 2 years old yet. Some serious injuries could happen like that. It's amazing how quickly her behavior changed. She went from feeding and relaxed to chasing. Elijah, elephants are incredible creatures. They can travel many, many, many kilometers with their young. All they need to do is just slow down. Because elephants can move for the majority of the day, they don't need to sleep for 12 hours or 20 hours like a lion. They can move very large distances, even with a young calf. They just stop frequently and let the calf sleep, sometimes even underneath mom's stomach if that's the only shade available. And so there's not an exact answer for this. Elephants used to be migratory species. They used to migrate from South Africa all the way north and back again, but now they can't. So if they needed to, I'm sure they would move tens of kilometers overnight with a youngster. But bear in mind, that is quite tiring. Every one step for mom is probably 5 steps for the baby. So that can be a bit tiring for the little one. But provided they stop for frequent naps and frequent feeding so that the little baby has enough protein from mom's milk and enough moisture, enough fluids. Oh, hello, you two playful ones. Then the little one should be fine. Fiona D, yes, plants in general actually offer quite a lot of medicinal uses to elephants and the other animals. A lot of plants have natural antibiotics in them, so the gum of trees, for example. Hello, Cheeky, I see you. Goodness gracious. A young male, feeling very mischievous, with mud dropping off his back as he's going. So, for example, if you've got a tree that has any form of sap or bark, which has gum in it, that is often very natural in antibiotics. So you can find that on sometimes on tamboti trees, sometimes on any form of, I'm trying to think of the name of the other tree, sometimes fig trees as well. But most plants have natural antibiotic in them. Tamboti should help them as well with things like toothache or anything like that. It is toxic to us, but to elephants, it's not. So there would be a variety of different plants that they could use. Elephants also particularly enjoy aloes. If there's an area with aloes, you will find complete destruction of these aloes. And aloes are very, very good for medicinal uses, whether it's for your fluid intake, for a bit of an immune boost, anything like that. Aloes are very good for elephants. I think this bull's feeling a little bit left out. The other one has come into the drainage line with the rest of the family, and I think because it's a bit younger, maybe still tolerated by the herd. But this one being older, I would say he's closer to 15 or 16 years old. He will be less tolerated by the herd. Yes, I see you. Thank you. I'm glad that snot didn't hit me, though. Not today. I think this elephant's going to be quite big when he's older. But he's gone off to join the rest of the herd. I will turn around and see if we can see them from the dam wall. And maybe they'll come down to drink a bit later.
So we're down by twin dams. We're just sitting between a big jackalberry tree and a leadwood tree in some shade. So just imagine that you're lying on a hammock. Just enjoy this scene with us.
Good afternoon and welcome to Eco Training Prylands. So far we've been looking for our lions again this afternoon. It seems they have given us a slip, so we actually did follow up where they were resting, and then we followed them for several places where they were resting from there on, but no luck so far. So my name is JP LaRue, and behind the camera we've got Darby. Also just quickly stopped, there's a whole bunch of beautiful little flowers that we see right over here, and some of those red ones which you see is known as a red star zinnia. Its scientific name is Zinnia peruviana, as it originally made its way from Peru by accident into South Africa. Not sure how it got here, but we quite often see that they do become quite invasive in certain areas which has been disturbed in the past. And because they don't have any natural threats, they tend to be quite successful when they start growing. There's a few ways that we can deal with a number of exotic plant species which do come into the country. And some of those are mechanically or physically removing them. We can also use methods such as herbicides, but the best is sometimes to try and get the least or the most friendly method of dealing with them, and that's often looking for biological control agent which has been tested in the lab to make sure that they can't jump over to any of the indigenous plant species. And once that the plant has been exterminated in the area by the biological control agent, normally the biological control agent will also then die out naturally. It's not only just alien plant species which we have to sometimes control. Sometimes we also have to even control certain indigenous plant species which can become pretty invasive. And that's also sometimes due to disturbances that we do find in the area, such as roads that's been put in, or the changes in the amount of rainfall that has come forth in that area. There's so many different reasons which can lead to an area becoming disturbed. Overgrazing from cattle and also game can often also create conditions where it alters the vegetation structure. So our plan from here is to continue and go and see if we can find any tracks of 5 lions from this morning coming out of this block, and then continue following on the tracks. Well, in the meanwhile, let's go and see what Tessa is up to. It seems she's on a bumble.
I've decided to do things a little bit backwards today. The elephants have disappeared into the drainage line. I think they're going to be moving quite quickly with that young bull so close behind them. So I've decided to come back towards quarantine because it looks like we've got quite a diversity of wildlife over here. And I want to show you what it looks like when the animals are literally hiding in the only shade patches they can find. I'm actually going to pull into the front here, BK. So that we can see some of the wildebeest crossing the road. And we're a little bit in the shade. So this is what we mean when we say we are shade hopping, everybody. We look for little shady patches where the animals are out and about. And if you have a look at where the different animals are placed, the wildebeest are under the big marula at the back. The impalas are between the 2 marulas here next to us. And everybody's trying to avoid the sun as much as possible. So they're only out in the sun when they're moving from one shade patch to another. It has been very refreshing recently to see the big implausibility of wildebeest back. I think it's possibly the biggest, or the biggest implausibility, I should say, that's been seen on Djuma in quite a long time. Liesel, it's always a pleasure to see different species together. Actually, there were some warthogs around earlier, but they didn't last very long as usual. They ran off. And there were some kudus fairly close by, but not quite in the same space as these. But yes, yeah, we've got a squirrel alarm calling somewhere in the brush to the left. We've got the impalas, the implausibility, and some oxpeckers as well, flitting between the different animals. This always gives me a sense of East Africa, not that it's anything close to it. The numbers there are immense. Oh, thank you. I don't have a monitor, so if you hear BK chatting away, he's just telling me what he's focusing on. And there was a little young ram that was busy suckling. But this is beautiful. I love watching impalas move. They tend to walk in a stripe, always. One behind the other. And it looks like we've got the nursery right here at the back. A lot of little lambs with 1 or 2 adults following behind the rest of the herd. I can hear one impala is actually calling at the moment. I think it's one of those in the shade. I don't know why it's calling. Maybe it's lamb somewhere in the nursery. It's trying to get its attention. The impala right on the right has got an oxpecker trying to get into its nose. Angie, yes, there will be certain plant species that some species won't eat and that other species will, and it will be completely dependent on the animal that you're looking at. So elephants and black rhinos, for example, can feed off of tambwetis, and they're actually toxic, they're poisonous. So other animals would not be able to feed off of that. They can't process, the body can't process the toxins. But then it also works in other ways as well. You know, some animals will eat, what's a good example? Mapanis. But they can't eat too much of it. Mapanis are very, very high in protein. In fact, it's so high in protein that it starts to affect animals' kidneys if they eat too much of it. But some animals are more tolerant than others. So kudus are more tolerant to mapanis than impalas are. So it really does depend on the species that you're looking at. I think plants that nobody really eats, one of them would be a guari. They'll eat it if they absolutely have to. It's not that it tastes bad, it's not that it's toxic, but it dries your mouth out. It makes your mouth feel like powder. And so you can imagine it's quite an unpleasant feeling eating something like that. One thing that seems to be a hit with everybody, though, is the marulas with the marula fruits at the moment. And thinking about the question from earlier, that's part of the reason why elephants in particular, elephant bulls, will eat so many marula fruits now, is for the medicinal use. It's an immune booster that's very high in vitamin C for when they come into must. So impala rams will try and do the same thing. They'll try and build up their vitamin C before the fighting starts. And in fact, Nyala bulls also very much enjoy marula fruits. This is so peaceful. So it seems like most of the implausibility has gone down towards possibly the top end of Gowrie Dam. Maybe the impalas are going to follow. Or maybe they're just going towards the drainage line. I'm sure they're going to try and keep as cool as possible. We are in that weird time frame at the moment where you know, as we come out in the afternoon, we think it can't possibly get any hotter than it is at 2:30 or 3:30 in the afternoon. Wrong. It gets hotter and hotter until about 5 or 5:30, and then all of a sudden it starts to cool off all at once. So for the next hour and a bit still, animals are going to be shade hopping as much as we are. But what that does mean for us is we get beautiful scenes like this where the animals aren't moving too much, and so we actually get to spend some quality time appreciating them. Oak tree, I think sometimes we feel the same way. We see impalas almost everywhere, but when we've had a week like we've had with so much rain, you cannot get an impala to stand still for a frame. And so we also end up missing them terribly because they have this way of filling any space that they're in. You know, they've got a presence about them. They're very entertaining to watch, and they're beautiful. That pop of red is so unusual in the bush. No other herbivore has the colorations and the technique that impalas do in terms of their coloration and using it as camouflage. Not here anyway. So it really is a lovely thing to see, and we've been missing the insects and the birds and definitely things like impalas and implausibilities and those animals with all this rain. I could sit for hours and hours and watch an impala herd because there's always something happening somewhere, whether it's an oxpecker trying to go into a nostril or an ear here, or youngsters play fighting there, or just somebody that's chewing the cud. You never know what you're going to find.
Done a little loop in the Mlowathi River now. We've popped out. I'm kind of just going through, first day back, so it's cool to just sort of explore all the spots again. And this is now we're going through the area where Tlalamba does like to hang out, so our plan is to go up towards Buffelshoek Dam. But just cruising, shooting the breeze with that. Well, I say that is one of the cool things that I do enjoy about the safari experience. Is like in the times when it's hot and maybe not prime time for viewing, is the chats that you have, the amazing topics that pop up when you're actually on a safari. That's what makes it a good time in the bush. Black mamba. I'm just picking some foliage. It's cooking. So we're going towards Buffelshoek Dam. That's our plan. We're going to see if something's in the water there. When it's hot like this, I'm also looking on the road, checking on top of termite mounds, even on some of these like dead branches. It'll be quite cool to spot a snake basking in the sun. I would love to see a big python. I haven't seen a big python in many, many years. Like that would be so super cool. At a respectable distance, obviously. Not too close. Angie, there's quite a few trees that that are protected, and also some that just take an incredibly long time to mature. So, jackalberries, leadwoods, young marulas, sausage trees, any of the sort of big iconic trees you want to kind of definitely avoid. The Chinese lantern bush or sickle bush is not protected or anything, but you've got to be so careful if you do drive over that they've got incredibly hard spines and they will give you a puncture. So it depends on, if you're meaning what do we have to be careful of in terms of the car braking or from a conservation point of view. So when we off-road, we try as hard as we can to not drive over trees, but there are certain ones like these combretums that we see everywhere. They are not in short supply. So if you've got to pick between a between a jackalberry and a bush willow, the bush willow is going down, that's for sure. Sorry Harry, I was just checking the road carefully. I thought I saw a track. So, after damaging rain, it's kind of the things that we've created that sort of lead to damage, like a lot of roads and things. Roads obviously not natural, so you might get a lot of water runoff down a road, and that ends up creating big gullies. Then that's really only fixable by our own hand. But the bush, it recovers. That's just what it does. That's what the bush has done for forever. So sometimes an area, the sort of layout might change, the vegetation might even change, but the bush just bounces back. It's actually phenomenal. But where you get problems is if there starts to be erosion and then the topsoil gets washed away, then the area is going to struggle. So you try and avoid creating those sort of conditions. That's why along a lot of the roads, we build these little bumps. It's just to divert the water off so that it doesn't continually erode the road, because then the water will rush down there and silt up another area. Come on, Muffles hook. Damn. Was that what plants have natural gum? Like tree sap. A lot of the acacias have got sap. Like you see, that's almost looks like treacle. So you'll see things like bush babies, they'll feed on that, monkeys. So they'll sort of bite and damage the bark and cause the tree to bleed, as it were. And then they'll feed on that sort of yummy, yummy sap coming out of there. What was in there? So funny, it's been so long since I've driven the Land Rover. My foot is so close to the pedal, I'm getting like a cramp in my shin. No way, you're going to head over to JP.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Eco Training Prudence. We eventually had success and we located on our 5 lions from this morning. It took us quite a lot of hard work. We managed to go through several blocks and eventually they came out on the road. We only managed to find the tracks for a very short period of time. And when we caught up with them, some of them were resting in the shade over here. If I have to take a guess, it's probably a kilometre distance from where we did find them this morning. And our suspicion was that they're going to start heading to water. And not too far away from here, there's a little pan that's known as Buffalo Pan. And that's precisely where I think that they are heading towards. As it's incredibly warm this afternoon, it's very unlikely that they're going to do much moving from this point. But later on this afternoon, when it starts cooling down, they'll definitely be heading there. We see that there's some interesting dynamics taking place within the Ngati Pride, and we see that the group has now split it off from the original 16 or 17 individuals, and they're now forming smaller little fragmented groups. And the reason is there's just too much competition in a larger group, and there's so many mouths that need to feed. And if you're only taking down impalas and wildebeest, between 17 lions, it's not a lot of food, especially if that big male comes in and immediately takes away the kill from the rest of the group and then feasts on it on his entire own for the next 2 days. When it does come to lions, there's not a lot of sharing that takes place, and we do find that they will even let their own young starve from hunger if needed to take care of themselves. And we definitely see that the males will definitely exclude both young as well as females when it does come to kills. If it's a fairly large kill, he might at some point share the spoils with them and then go and rest one on the side. However, if it's fairly small, he tends to be very protective against it and then often chase them away if they even try to come and feed. I've even in the past seen where young cubs have tried to come towards the male, which is their own father that's busy feasting in a large carcass and trying to eat, and they'll simply get smacked with a paw if they do get in the way and growled at. They very soon learn that if they get growled at, it means that they must stay away. So at the moment they're not doing much, and this is typical of lion, and they just tend to conserve as much as possible energy in the heat of the day. And that energy is then going to be used later on tonight when it's cool. Most likely, in the case of tonight, maybe we'll start moving an hour after sunset when it really gets cool enough, and then throughout the night. Just to give you an idea, if you are not familiar with lions, the activity period is normally 21 hours a day that they will spend on sleeping, and the remainder of the activities will include some 4 or 5 hours of walking around. Young male that's walking down the road now, although there's no mane, we can always check just directly underneath the tail and you'll notice the scrotum. Quite often I hear guys incorrectly sexing lions, and it's as simple sometimes as just to check. We're just going to move a little bit forward, see if we can get a little bit of a better position or view of them, and then see what they get up to. Most likely going to cut through here this drainage line and then make their way towards the water. So one of the things that we were looking for earlier on this afternoon when we were trailing them through that thick area is those flattened areas of grass. And that's a good indication that they've been there, and you can see that it's been freshly pushed over and that the grasses haven't become dry yet, so you know that you're still on track of your lions. So the comments of some of the comments from viewers came through very softly. I couldn't hear them very clearly. If you don't mind just to repeat them for me. It's going to go a little bit forward, and in the meanwhile I'm listening to those comments. Good afternoon, Rock Candy, and welcome to the show. I'm also loving seeing them this afternoon, and I'm glad that I can be sharing them with you. The lions are now flat down again in the shade. As mentioned earlier this morning, one of the behaviors that I find particularly strange with them is that on incredibly warm days, they tend to actually go and lie right on top of one another. and you would think that it's actually very uncomfortable under such warm conditions. Well, on cool days, I often see them lying slightly apart from one another. I've never really been able to understand it at all. And once again, it just shows you how quickly a lion can disappear and right in front of you. Largest carnivore can simply just go in Africa, can simply just go and lie flat down on the grass and disappear directly underneath a bush. I'm actually hearing one now coming out from behind this bush which we drove past, where we actually didn't see anything. Yeah, it comes out. Let's watch and see what he's going to get up to. He's going to make his way straight to that little shaded spot and most likely go and flop down on top of somebody. And typical, they'll do but precisely what not what you thought that they were going to do. So quite often we are pretty good with reading animal behavior, but animals also do their own thing.
We found a bit of shade at Buffelshoek Dam, and we're going to chill here for the next few minutes and just see what comes down. There were some Egyptian geese, of course. Just scanning with my binoculars on this along the water's edge to see if there's anything interesting. There's a blacksmith lapwing on the far side there. One of my big childhood memories was sitting at a bird hide at a watering hole. And I was so bleak, my parents wanted to just sit there, and I was like, this is horrific, it's so boring. And they said, no, just sit, we must see what we see. And we sat there for hours. And I actually spotted a snake catching a frog from the bird hide with binoculars. So it is always cool, so that's always stayed with me. The longer you sort of sit around the watering hole, chances are you're going to see something. Welcome back to Buffelshoek Dam. Gert and I are just chilling. It's so nice in the shade. There's such a nice breeze blowing into us. I think this is where we're going to settle in for a little while. Just enjoy the birds coming down, there were some tracks of elephants in the area. So it didn't look too fresh though, but it would be really cool if some elephants rocked up for a drink. Nancy, I've not actually, I've seen a crocodile move like a short distance, like actually watching it move from one waterhole to another. But we used to find tracks quite regularly of crocodiles doing long walks from the river to watering holes, sort of 3 or 4 kilometer walks. You'd follow their tracks. And that must be quite a thing to see, because they would walk a little bit on the road and then like go on a game path. So just imagine just walking in the bush and then on a game path finding like a 4-meter crocodile. There's a thick knee. Yeah, the camera's tough now. The guys always shout at me for moving. Now both of us are big. Daniel, they might be. I mean, young crocodiles would definitely try and catch birds. As crocodiles get bigger, they normally would go for sort of bigger things. But along the water's edge, snakes potentially too could also pose a threat, like a python. Could lay an ambush at the edge of the water. But it'd be quite tough. Birds are pretty quick. Hey Josh, thanks for your question. So this time of year we're in now, summer, is when snakes would be most active in the year, and then some snakes are cruising around during the day, so they would obviously be active currently, and then there's some that move around at night, so they'll wait for night time before they get active. But like a hot day like this, the snakes would come out, they would bask a little bit and warm up. It's almost like they get charged up by the sun, and then they would go out and do what they've got to do. But definitely the current conditions right now are perfect for snakes. It's so hard to see them though. Like I always want to try and spot a snake, because they are really interesting when you get to see them. But the amount of driving around we do and this amount of snakes you actually see, it's actually pretty lucky to spot a snake while you're driving around. It's a good question, Giraffe Girl. It was, I must say, Tabangumi is what I say him every time. And I got to start my first drive with him this morning, so I suppose I can't say that again. I'd like to see Tlalamba and the cubs, just to see, because obviously I haven't seen them since I was here in December. So it'd be very cool to see how they're getting on. And I was talking about it earlier. It would be cool to see a python. I'd like to find a big python. I think that would be a treat. Sam, I believe Wendy's having some trouble. I hope they've trying to fix it in the shade. Otherwise they're going to be cooking. Oh, good. You're going to head over to Tess, who's gently driving along in Wendy.
Yes, very gently driving the old Wendy today. She's not having the best day, everybody. Wendy is not having the best day, so I'm sticking to the boundaries for now, just to try and give the tyres and the chassis a bit of a break. We're driving along very slowly, a nice gentle bumble. And I'm looking also for any signs of leopard. Like I know John T wants to see the leopards. I would love to see some more leopards in the next 2 weeks. And I'm hoping that we might get lucky along the boundary. I'm on Triple M. We've had a good start already with the elephants and wildebeest and the impala and some beautiful birds. The poor old girl needs me to take it very, very, very extra slow today. So that's what we're going to do. And sometimes that's the best way to actually find animals, is just keep it slow, try not to miss anything. Just nice and cool, calm, collected while you're driving. And you can see all the little things. I don't know how many times, stopping. Okay, so John T is looking forward to seeing Tavangumi. Not that much. I would love to see Tavangumi. I've seen one very brief glimpse of him in September, so a long time ago. But I would love to see Maribs. I would love to see Tavangumi. The wild dogs again would be great. And I would love to add to my bird list, maybe with a few birds that I haven't seen before.
Coming to us. Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. We still with our 5 lions that we located earlier on, and 2 females and then the youngsters. If you were keen on knowing how old they are, they're roughly a year and some 2 or 3 months of age now. It's amazing how quickly they've grown in the time since I've been here. A few things that we can look at, which is actually indicating that they are very youthful, and that's that pink coloration of the nose. And every now and then, when they do open their mouths and you'll see the teeth, you'll see that their cutting teeth are still in a very good condition. And there's no breaks to them, which you often see with adult lions, is that they get chipped. And eventually that's one of the things that becomes a limiting factor for a lion. And generally for females from 12 and onwards, we find that the teeth is broken and worn down, and that prevents them from feeding quite successfully from that point onward. And it's roughly the same for leopard as well. We generally find that males will be slightly shorter lived, and they tend to make it up to 8 to 9 years of age. But as a male lion, life is tough. You have to fight off other males, you have to fight with your brothers, and you also have to patrol incredibly large areas to make sure that nobody else comes in to that area. A lot more stresses that definitely leads to them actually leading shorter lives. But when it does come to the exceptions to the rule, there is several records of where I have personally seen lions reaching 12 to 13 years of age for big males, and females slightly older. There was a coalition of 5. And by the time that I did leave there was actually only 3 of them that still left in that coalition of 5 brothers. So when you do have male coalitions, they're normally related males, and it's very seldom, or not at all, that I've ever heard that there's actually been outsiders allowed into that group. And one of the oldest records that I do know about is roughly some 17 years of age. And as far as I know, that record goes for a zoo animal. You'll also notice that they are breathing quite heavily, and it's because of the heat. And as mentioned earlier, they try and move as little as possible in the heat of the day to conserve energy. Good afternoon, Pauline, and welcome to the show. Yes, it does happen. We quite often see that when those prides become too big, the females will actually take their cubs away. And also when it's females which are going to give birth, and knowing that there's a big age difference between her cubs and the other cubs inside the group, she'll definitely rather keep them separately away from them. In the past, I have seen it where they do try and bring them in, but eventually the larger cubs end up pulling them as well as injuring them. And lion has got precisely the same problem as what Darby and I has. There's a lot of biting flies out here. They very quickly make you jump. And that's quite a sharp little piercing sting that they can provide. And what they're after is blood. This one is getting a little bit uncomfortable and it's time to go and plonk himself down on somebody else. Somebody is disapproving. Somebody definitely doesn't want anybody else to come and lie on top of them, and I wouldn't either on a warm day like this. Oh, the lioness is now a bit annoyed with the young males. It seems as if she's now moving on. Let's just sit and watch and see what the youngsters are getting up to. Breakaway group from the Ngati Pride. And the group consists out of 3 sub-adults and 2 lionesses. Seems as if the youngsters were hindering her and they were trying to climb on top of her while she was lying in the shade. She wasn't too happy with it and now has moved off somewhere else. Already 2 of them started to follow her. We'll go and catch up with them in a moment, but in the meanwhile, let's see what these 2 are going to get up to. One of the things that we did notice is that they try and climb on top of one another when it's so incredibly warm. Oh, I love it when they do that. As I mentioned a little bit earlier in one of the segments, these are fairly young lions and they're roughly a year or 2 or 3 months of age. And you can see that there's a lot of pink on those noses. And when they did yawn, you could see how those teeth are in absolute perfect condition. So for older lions, we can actually use the breaking of the teeth as a rough idea of how old they are, combined with the pink. As they are young males, they'll probably only start showing signs of a mane roughly from 2.5 years of age, when they'll start developing a slight little mohawk. But it can also not happen at all. Quite often we have seen with some lions, males, when they are under stress, that they will not develop a mane at all. It's also interesting, the famous man-eaters of Tsavo was actually maneless lions. And if any of you are quite close by to the neighborhood of Chicago in the United States, you can actually see these 2 lions at the Field Museum in Chicago.
Okay, so we just moved away from the dam. I think I'd like to go towards Chitwa Dam. that was very good to me on the last little stint here. Also, by the time we get there, hopefully the temperature would have done the shift. It started cooling down. I'm going to have to tell Tess to drive carefully with Wendy, not break her. What can I say that amazes me the most about elephants? That's a tough question. I don't know if I could say one thing that amazes. Well, I could give you the cop out because it's the largest living land mammal. No, I just love elephants. I mean, the fact that they are the largest thing that cruises around the planet and we get to sit and look at them. Like the social structure, the intelligence, the fact that they've got a trunk. There's so many things. It's tough to sort of peg it down to what I find the most interesting thing about them. What is yours, C-Mac? I'd love to hear what you find interesting about them. Rick 73, I mean, it does happen. I've only seen it once as a proper fight between two bulls that were in must. I've seen little scuffles, but in terms of one actual proper fight, I've seen once, and that was incredible because obviously they're both now supercharged up with testosterone. And neither one wants to sort of back down, and they were quite evenly matched. So it was a spectacle of note. And the one time they actually hit, the one elephant's tusk just snapped off right at the base. So it sort of sounded like a gunshot. And then it sprayed blood out onto the other one. And then when they were hitting, it was just like you could see the spray each time. It was hectic, and trees were just getting flattened. They were massive. We went back and looked afterwards. There was an area like probably the size of a tennis court that just got hammered. Like there were deep gouges in the ground where their feet had dug in when they were pushing each other. They had ripped trees out of the ground. And we went back to actually look for that big chunk of tusk. So typically they will, if one's not in must, it'll just sort of back out of that conflict. So what we were lucky to see was like the perfect storm. Oh, guys, still doing a check here. Is that closed? So this is where we're going past now. It looks like guys are still checking here. But down to the right here is where this is where we found Tlalamba was densite the first time. Let's poke our nose in here. and have a look. I'm pretty sure the cubs are now, I mean, I'm sure she would have moved them from this den, but let's just have a quick look. Because they're now almost 2 months older than when I last saw them, so they should be pretty mobile and wouldn't be being stashed anymore. While we just look around here, you're going to head over to Tess, who's got something very cool for you to see. It's thick.
Yes, looking in the thickets definitely gives you some amazing sightings. And just as I was driving past, this thicket is very, very thick. I did have a little bit of a tip-off, but I wasn't sure we were actually going to find him. Everybody, this looks like it is Tortoise Pan, the big male leopard that I first met here at Djuma. The first one of all the big males was Tortoise Pan. It was my first day with Tristan, and he was mating with Shidulu at the time. And now it looks like he is just so nice and relaxed in the drainage line, lying flat on his side, and occasionally I'm getting a little stretch out of him. I would love it if a little bit later on if he could lift his head a bit so we can see the face and show you a few more of his features. But for now I think it is just too hot. To give you an idea of the kind of camouflage he's got here, you can have a look at the rest of the brush that is surrounding him. The only reason that I stopped here to have a look in is because of the little hole that his body is made in the grass. The rest of it is very, very thick. But this shows you the element of surprise, everybody. This is what leopards use to hunt. And it's very clear why. So this makes me very happy. Not only am I seeing a leopard in his prime, having a nice cat nap, I feel like I'm going to see him moving just now, hopefully. Oh, catching flies while he's lying there. But at the same time, it's treating Wendy well, because we're on the boundary and we're still. Andrew, it really, it's almost unreal to think about. It's, when you look at his surroundings and you look at him, it's actually mind-blowing, because the spots and the rosettes on his body, right from his legs up the way to his sides, blend in with the light that's coming through the long shards of grass and the canopy of the trees. It looks like the shaded areas in between the brush. He is absolutely beautiful. I would love to see his body size again. I keep forgetting how big he is until I see him every time. And last time I saw him was actually very close by to here. It was on Sandy Patch. Thank you so much, everybody. I don't think BK and I were expecting to find Tortoise Pan lying down in the drainage line still, because it's so hot, and Tortoise Pan was seen on the boundary sometime between drives today. So we just knew he was somewhere around the area, or had been. And as I pulled up to the little drainage line, I was on the opposite side of the vehicle, and I just kind of stopped in the drainage line, and I couldn't see in because I'm too far and the dip is quite steep. And I turned to Beacon and I said, is there by any chance a leopard in this drainage line? He said, oh yes, yes there is. Lying right here next to the road. I'm probably only 2 meters from him where he is at the moment, because he's down into like a culvert in a dip underneath the road that serves to kind of clear the water away I really wasn't expecting him to actually be here. I was just taking a lucky guess. A lucky guess he'd be in the shadiest drainage line. Actually doesn't look as though he's even panting that much. I think it's nice and cool down there. I can see the soil is a bit wet, so you'll probably find his body is cooling off on the side that's touching the soil, and then he's got a bit of a breeze over this side that we can see. And because he's in the shade, he is very, very nicely cooled and camouflaged down there. But he is still catching flies. The flies are going to be bothering him the whole day. So I'm wondering if he's had any more escapades with any females recently, because the last few times I've seen him he's been with females, except for one time last stint. So I wonder if there are any females close by. Maybe Kara's around. Alright, I'm going to stick with him for a while and see what he does. I'm sure as the day goes on, he's going to start getting active.
That's so cool that Tess is with Tortoise Pan. I'm glad he showed himself again after he hid away from Gert and I. So we're now just driving, we're actually on our way towards Chitwa Dam. We're just enjoying a nice steady little cruise. Hey, there's a cuckoo of some description. Eesh. It's landed there behind us. See on there? Ach no, man. So they've spotted a bird. Oh no. She gone. Okay. We won't. I saw it fly right out the back. Looked like a cuckoo. I didn't get binoculars on it yet, so I don't want to busk. Well, just that one got away. Yeah, so my brain's wondering what was that leopard doing with Tess. I want to know what he's doing, to why he's been there the whole day.
I can tell you that I'm thrilled to see Tortoise Pan, and not very surprised to see he hasn't changed much in his activities. The last time I saw him, he was flat sleeping in the grass. I think he lifted his head a total of 3 times in about an hour and a half. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get the same treatment today. But I just find myself admiring how he looks down in the drainage line like that. This is why leopards enjoy riverine thickets and drainage lines.
Shame Tess is not having a good afternoon. Wendy's bucking the system, but that's fine. I'm sure it will be resolved shortly. So I believe on Dam Cam they've just told us that there's some elephants swimming at Gowrie Dam. But I'm going to stick to our guns. We're close to Chitwa. I'm going to go check Chitwa Dam. Because you know, I know they're in the dam now, but if we go rushing there, by the time we get there, they'll probably be finished swimming. Even though that would be a really cool spectacle. Wow. I mean, once an elephant came, we had stopped for sundowners, so you know, we set up a table, put a cooler box, had like gin and tonic and some snacks and cool drinks, and we saw a young elephant bull sort of came up and he started walking, and I thought he was just going to walk past, but he sort of kept coming closer and closer. And so then we just said, okay, cool, let's just go and get on the car. So we all just went and climbed onto the car, and he walked slowly up to the table, and he sniffed with his trunk, smelt everything, and then he just wrapped his trunk around the cooler box and he just threw it. Like, he must have thrown it like 40 meters away from us. Obviously all the contents sprayed out everywhere, and then he just walked off into the sunset, and I was like, what? Why do these cuckoos keep doing that? Oh, there, you see it there. Yeah. So if there's any... Oh, that's cool. Are there any birders at home who are watching, who want to give us the exact species that we're looking at here? Are you joking? Can you still get it? Try. Gert's going to try and get it. I don't know if anybody got a glimpse of it before it took off. Gown. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Jared. I must say, I didn't even have a proper look there. Did you get a good look? So obviously between these two, I just didn't check the breast. We'll have to go back and watch the footage, because it was on there for like a second. But let's see what people start sending in. I'm going to carry on driving, and then I'll show you. I think I know which one it was, based on my quick view that I had. Oh. Yeah, so the elephant just threw. Yeah, so I also think it was the African cuckoo, but I didn't get a proper look with my binoculars. I took the bird book out, which is against my own advice. But I do think it was the African cuckoo, so well done everybody who said that. I'll just show you quickly in the bird book why. Let me put it up here. So you can see the that one there is the African cuckoo. And then if you go up, that's the common cuckoo. So the thing that stood out for me was the clear yellow bill of the African cuckoo, and then the grey breast. It's very similar between the two, but yeah, that is, I'm pretty sure, what was on the screen there. So well done for everyone who got that correct, you legends. Trying to think of other funny elephant encounters. There was one where we had like driving along and we saw fresh tracks all along the road, and then like in the distance I could see the elephant's bum, or the herd's bums, and one of them had pushed a tree over the road, like a small dead branch basically. So I stopped the car and they were quite far away, and I walked forward and I moved the branch, and then I saw that there was another one like 20 meters ahead, so I just walked there and moved that one, and then I heard the guests shout, "The elephant's coming," and I looked up and there was a young bull elephant was walking like quite fast towards where I was standing. So I like quickly made my way back to the car, jumped in the car, and then he picked up the one branch that I just moved and carried it and put it down like right in front of the car, and then just stood on the side, and it was as if he was saying like, "Move it again, please move it again." And he just stood there for like 10 minutes and then he cruised off. But they definitely have a sense of humor. Okay, so we're about to cross the boundary into Chitwa. I don't know if anybody was watching this morning, but Tess saw Tandi and she was heading south. So maybe we're going to get lucky. Oh, I love peri peri chicken. There was a Cokie Franklin calling there. While we go towards Chitwa Dam, you're going to head back to Tess, who's still with a male leopard.
I'm happy that everybody's enjoying the bird challenges with myself and Jonty. I'm still sitting with Tortoise Pan, and we've just been admiring him as he's repositioned a little bit. He's moved himself closer to the road, actually. And he seems to be making small movements. Every now and then he's actually lifted his head, which is very exciting. I've managed to see his eye, some of his ears, but just a little bit, like a little glimpse of his ears. But for the most part, he seems to be very relaxed unless there's a fly on his face. And then we see him snap. But I'm loving how as the light is changing, we're sitting in the drainage line with him. And as the light is changing, coming through the trees, you can see the difference in his coat from light to dark. And poor, he has got very beautiful spots, and it's very tough to see them through the grass at this point. But you can see a few, and like I was saying, you know, that difference between the golden light on his coat and the shade on his coat is massive, and it almost shows you why leopards would prefer to hunt either at night or use the shade as much as they can, especially on cooler days, because the light makes that coat so golden and reflective.
Now, best relocation could be everybody's north open.
But I'm wondering how long he's been here for without anybody noticing. Because we're on one of the main entrances. We're on Triple M Malamana main entrance. And I haven't seen anybody else stop here. I haven't heard of anybody else stopping here. I think so many people have driven past him today. And being the most lush summer we've had in many, many years in this section, you can imagine why he's easy to miss. It is actually very peaceful here in the drainage line. The birds don't know that he's here, so there's no alarm calling. It's just very tranquil. Justine, I have experienced a few odd things with leopards here and there. Probably the most noticeable to me, where it's not necessarily odd but just unusual, a little bit unusual, is like when you have a situation with Mareebs and Tandi. And the last time I saw them together, Mareebs, he's not even independent yet, and he's walking along the road and scent marking every opportunity he gets. He's sawing, he's foot scraping, he is doing absolutely everything as though he's a dominant territorial male, and yet he's not yet independent from Tandi. And that to me is strange leopard behavior, because he's way too young to be acting like that, and way too inexperienced to be acting that confident, because he's going to have to move out of this area. If he's advertising to other males, this is where I am, come and get me, and he's still staying with Tandi, he's going to be in trouble. So that's one of the behaviors that I've been fascinated by, is how freely and openly he scent marks and shows territoriality. A few other things that I've noticed is how habituated leopards can become to camps in particular, not necessarily here, but all over. It's a formidable predator, it's a perfect killing machine, and yet oftentimes you find leopards living in and very close to camps and walking straight past people and underneath dinner tables, and you hear all of these stories from all over, and that to me is quite strange. But probably, to me, one of the most special things that's also a bit odd is how easily leopard cubs can be habituated if you are sensitive. It makes sense that if you're sensitive around animals, that they are going to relax and trust you. And so they'll start exploring, they'll start coming up to the vehicle, they'll let you approach them. But it's almost like a flick switch in leopards, where they're very, very nervous or skittish, and they're nervous and they're skittish, and they're nervous and they're skittish, and every time you can, kind of see them coming a little bit closer, and then once that switch is flicked, once they've known and learned that they can trust you, it's immediate, and then all of a sudden there's this immense exploring and getting very close to the vehicles. I mean, I've seen leopard cubs climb up, trying to get into the footwell of cruisers and Land Rovers, and I've seen leopard cubs trying to climb up the bull bar in the front of the vehicle. So, it's once that switch is activated, it's so unusual how trusting they become. You can also understand why those kinds of things might be a problem, though. So it is a very sensitive area, and that's why we try and maintain as natural an approach as possible, so that they don't get too habituated to being complacent with humans, but that there's a natural respect from each to the other. That is the best way to do any form of game viewing, that you can watch and leave without them ever being bothered that you were there. Not attracted to you, not repulsed by you, but neutral. That is the perfect way to be in nature. I can see his tail moving, but only the tip. And he's got flies bothering him, so you can see him jerking. We're going to stick around for a bit longer and just see what he does. I'm hoping with the little movements that he is going to get up and move sometime soon.
Oh, that's so cool that Tess is still viewing that leopard. I'm also a bit sad because he ran away from us. But we've made it to the watering hole. in some beautiful shade, and we're just watching these hippos. I'm actually looking because I want to try to see those, or one of those crocodiles. I know there's two big crocodiles that live in here. Oh, the breeze is amazing once you're in the shade. Also taking the chance to just stretch the old legs out of the Land Rover. It is a beautiful scene. The grass on the far side of the water just looks so good. You hear that? So kudu barking there. I think we must go there. Hey, well. Okay, so this is pretty cool. We were just sitting enjoying the shade, watching these hippos, and then we can hear in the distance kudu's alarm barking, like maybe up on the crest of the hill there. So, whoa, check at this monitor lizard. Where is he? We just drove here. Look at that lapwing bombing him. Yeah, they might get a tail flick of doom if they go close. You see how he puffs himself up. They obviously won't want him there if they've got a nest on the ground, because he would definitely eat the eggs. Yeah, that kudu is still going off. So kudus are pretty reliable. If they're barking, okay, lizard. As cool as you are, you're not that cool. I'm just going to go gently on, well, not too far to the left, otherwise it's going to... Debbie, that's a pretty good size, that one we just saw there. If you check in some of the books, they'll say 1.5 or 1.8 meters. 1.8 is massive. That one was probably about 1.5, I would have thought. Do you think it sounded like on the break or just up on the crest here? Yeah, so we've just got to try and find the kudu first. That's our first objective. And like we've seen, hey Chad, I hope you're having a good afternoon. They can, so they've got like a little membrane that will close over, so it's almost like a little goggle when they go underwater, but the water in that dam is not going to be, they're not going to be able to see very far. But if they were in clear water, then absolutely. So I was just saying, we just want to get up here. Our first thing is to try and actually see these kudu. And like we've seen so many times before, if it is a leopard, they like to move away from whatever's barking at them. I'm just going to switch off here, and it sounded to me like it was up here. So I'm just going to sit quietly. Please bark. Now that sounded very different. Did you hear that? That sounded like a leopard contact calling. Guys, this could get real good. Okay, but we need to be sharp. You see, like this game path is good. It sounded like that. I'm just going to go a little bit further and then stop and switch off again. But this grass is going to be tough there. Are that ears there? Oh, good. Is it, let's just try to see it. Is it looking at anything? Okay, well, we try to figure out what's going on here. You're going to go have a look at JP. Who are they looking there, eh?
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridlands, and while John T is following up on his alarm call from a leopard, we're busy watching some impala rams which are busy fighting. But also a few moments ago we had a giraffe which has actually made a few sounds, which is quite unusual to hear them do, as they're generally silent. But let's see what our two impala rams are going to get up to. For those viewers that haven't joined us for quite a while, what we'll notice at the moment is that the groups has actually started splitting up, and we actually find very few of the large mixed herds at the moment, and we start seeing that there's more and more bachelor herds and breeding herds that separate, and even one or two males that has already started setting up territories, but way too early. Generally what they're going to do is they're going to coincide their gestation period so that the lambs can be born roughly at late November, and that's approximately a 6.5 to 7 month gestation period. So generally by May, that's when most of the mating is taking place. It's going to reposition the vehicle, see if we can get a better view. See what our two rams are going to get up to. Oh, and there's our giraffe who's also popped out and now disappeared again. One of the strange things that I've just noticed a few moments ago with these two rams is the way that they stick out their tongues and flick it at one another. It's also quite often accompanied by the penis that's been wriggled up and down, and sometimes they will produce very strange snorting sounds while they're doing so. The moment for fighting hasn't become very intense yet, but closer to the end of the breeding season here in the last weeks of May as well as into June, we'll see that the remainder of the fighting becomes seriously intense, because there's only a few opportunities still to mate, and generally at that stage these males will only be able to keep a territory for some 7 or 8 days. In general, they can maintain territories for approximately 2 weeks. in that period of time. They don't feed, they don't drink, and they also tend to lose body condition, and sometimes they're displaced by stronger males. Well, we're going to quickly link away and go and see Jonty's leopard. He's just managed to find him.
So look how epic. Look what we found. I hope JP's antelope were exciting. But this is so cool. Those kudu led us straight to this female leopard. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Shame she's looking old. That is so legendary. I'm so sad you missed my moment when we came around the corner. That's when you went to JP. I was like, yes! Only Gert got to enjoy that. So what I'm going to try to do is go get around in front of her again. It's so legendary to have a leopard walking towards you, and we're basically going to be eye level. So please don't go anywhere. Just stay watching, because you can see she's walking down the road here. I'm going to go into this mitre drain and go like 100 meters ahead, and we're going to have a really cool shot of her. Yeah, 100%. Everyone who said it's Tandy, this is her. You can see she's the old lady. Sometimes when you do these loops, you come back onto the road and the leopard's gone off. Oh, that's cool. Alan, I'm glad your day's made. I'm just going to go back a little bit further, just so that you can watch her coming for a while without me driving. Oh no, don't go off there. Oh, this is so cool. Yeah, so 50, she's still looking very good, but you can see there's a lot of stories that she could tell. So I'm just going to actually sit quietly and let you just enjoy her walking towards us. Wow, that's amazing. I wonder if she's just lying in the shade. I'm just going to give her a sec to see. Can you still see her? That's funny. She might just be lying in the shade of this mitre drain. So you're going to get one more really good view of her now. She's actually lying down in the shade. So you can see how she's panting, she's hot. I think she's been moving around most of the day, looking for food. You see her stomach, she's looking a little bit empty. You could see as they get older, like her coat, if you compare it to Tavangumi, her coat, it's starting to look a little bit like shaggy. You can see her teeth, very, very worn. Oh, she's beautiful there. Waikisha, 100%. They're much longer than lion's whiskers. And they use them like feelers as they're moving around in the dark. One of the things that you'll find in literature is that if its whiskers when they erect, if they can fit through a gap, then they know their whole body can fit through. Which is pretty cool. So I'm just going to call this in, because I'm sure some of the other game drive people would like to see it. The station is located a female leopard on Gowrie Main, west of Chitakatlan, stationary in a Maita drain in Standi. There's one vehicle here. Where she's lying, imagine driving the other way. You would miss her. Yeah, I mean, it's possible. Obviously, as they get older, they might sort of be less fertile, but I've seen an 18-year-old leopard have a cub, but she did die while that cub was growing up, so she didn't finish raising the cub, but she was able to fall pregnant. Because what I always forget, it's so bad, but do you know how old she is, Kat?
14.
Yeah, I mean, she's 14. She's still got, I'd say she could still have a good 3 years in her. It obviously gets harder because each female litter that she has, she kind of gives them a portion of her territory, so her territory ends up getting smaller. And unfortunately, like with us, you not as fast as you potentially once were, and your eyesight might not be as good, and you're not as strong, and you might pick up injuries, and those are all factors that sort of you've got to think about, that she's got to navigate. And also by finding food now, males will steal food from her, her old cubs will steal food from her, hyenas will steal food from her, so it just gets harder and harder as she gets older and older. But I must say the nice thing about leopards, Julia, they do. They will be very competitive. So, like I was just saying, the moms will kind of give off portions of their territory to their female offspring, and they kind of exist along those lines throughout their lives. But any other unrelated females. They're fiercely territorial. But what I was going to say was, unless a leopard gets killed by sort of lions or another leopard or something like that, you normally won't see them, in their weakest moments. They just disappear. And I think that's quite cool, because it's a cat that's sort of shrouded in mystery anyway. And I mean, we get spoilt here at Djuma to see them like we do. But it's a very mysterious cat, and so the way that they behave when they go to die, it's as mysterious, and they just kind of vanish. So you're left with the great memories of them. You don't sort of see them struggling away, which is nice. They're very fluffy. Even if you look at her stomach, look at the skin along her stomach, look at that fur. It looks it's so loose because she's so hungry, but it looks so soft. I just want to go and lie there next to her. That wouldn't be advisable though. I'm glad she chose to lie down in the open. Yeah, it's a really beautiful cat. Every time you see one, you think, how's it possible that is a naturally occurring animal? Oh, there's an elephant, legendary. But it's just going to be its bum. Now it just walked across the road. It's not worth panning over. But that's pretty cool, the elephant rocking in as a sighting. So yeah, every time you see a leopard, you think, how's that thing so beautiful? And I remember seeing a tiger and I thought the same thing. And now I'm, in the end of this month, going to look for something that I think will be the same, but to go look for melanistic or black leopards in Kenya. And I'm so excited because, yeah, if we get to see one, that is going to be too good.
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. At the moment we are looking at a group of plain zebras. And they're fairly easy to identify and separate from other species of zebra which we do find in South Africa, as their stripes firstly runs underneath the belly, and secondly they also have a pale shadow stripe which is on top of a white. It's also often referred to as a gridiron pattern. And when it does come to zebras, each of these have got their own unique pattern by which you can identify them. And I'm hoping that I can show you a small little zebra in the group, as he's got a very unique pattern and very dark markings around the mouth and face, which I've never seen before with any other zebra. So as that we can identify individuals, it's also believed by scientists that they can identify individuals within the group. We also find that when a female does give birth, she actually moves out of a herd and then will give birth and spend approximately some 3 days with a young zebra before she takes it back into the group. And the reason is actually very simple, that it can learn to imprint on a pattern as well as learn to imprint on a scent. Otherwise, that young wool zebra will just simply follow any of the other zebras in that group. There's a number of theories on why they actually have stripes. And one of the theories that I was reading about is that zebras that do occur in larger numbers within a small space of area tends to actually have more stripes compared to horse species, which occurs in low density areas, which tends to have less stripes. And the example that they were specifically using was Abyssinian wild ass, also known as African ass, which is actually the ancestor to the domesticated donkey that we have today. There's a few others, and when it comes to zebras, when they are pursued by predators, that it makes it more difficult that a predator can single out a single individual when they group together. And then there's also a number of theories that it creates micro little currents on the coat. However, there's so many different discussions and so many different conflicting articles, which is actually difficult to say what they really are there for. But for me, I always like to go with the most obvious, and the most obvious is normally the valid reason why something has a specific pattern or do specific things.
So we haven't moved. We are still with this beautiful lady. It'd be interesting to know how far she's walked today. When we first saw her, it looked like she had a bit of water on her whiskers, so I think she went to drink and those kudus spotted her drinking. But it's so cool when it happens like that you sit, we were so quite happy sitting at the dam there, but when you sit quietly and you hear sounds and then to actually be rewarded. But I'm wondering, because that last sound I said it sounded like a leopard contact call, but then once we saw her, she was walking down the road here and she scent marked once, but I can't imagine she would be contact calling, because Marips is, I can't imagine she's being too tolerant of him anymore. But it's pretty radical that we've seen 3 leopards today. Not too shabby. I'd actually love like a little steenbok or something like that to show itself, because that would be great for her. I think yeah, it's very, very cool to spend time with. I'm going to try and get ahead of her again, just because it's obviously much nicer to watch her face walking towards you. Yo, how far? Oh, but she mustn't go there. You must walk straight down the road, girl. No. No. Oh, she's undecided. That's this. Oh, she's pretty, eh? She's got those like amber eyes. No. Oh, that's cool, James. I'm glad you're getting to see her. We on a knife's edge here. She might, if she turns left, then we can't follow. I'm trying to just go past enough so that we can see her face. If this is going to be our parting shot. Is she going to lie right there? That's there for the predators. So it's easier for them to catch lambs than it is to catch adults. I don't know if we're on. Comme ça va pour. Welcome back to Eco Training Pridens. We decided to stay a little bit longer in the open plains area and enjoy that last little bit of light, which is referred to as the golden hour. It's just more and more impalas have made their way over here, and even more wildebeest and zebras have come into the picture. We're just going to do a short silence segment and allow you to listen to the sounds of nature and just enjoy the sighting.
Good afternoon, Edward, and welcome to the show. It's very peaceful and I'm enjoying every moment of it. And there's also so many different species of birds that are just calling in the background and every now and then popping into the picture as well. I just love it when you have large groups of animals like this aggregating together. It's also great to see a large amount of wildebeest making their way back into this area. For a very long time, it was only a single territorial male that used to hang around here. And there's at least 4 or 5 of them that's now been seen on this open plains area. Some soft chattering there of yellow-billed hornbills in the background as well. I just love their little call.
So we just repositioned a little bit. She stayed in the same spot, but we are now not staring at the sun. You can see how long those whiskers are. She's got quite a unique pattern there above her eye. Yeah, that's right. Sorry, when you lost us there, I was busy chatting about why lambing season's good for predators. It's not nice, but it's just simple. There's a huge growth or burst in the population of little animals that are easier to catch. And so that's why it's a really good time for predators. Look at the light on her coat as she moves there. I'm going to go forward. We'll be able to watch her walk away a little bit. Like I said, we can't go into this property. Oh, nice. Good driving. So you might see her scent mark there. See how she's sniffing that tree? So good chance another leopard has scent marked there. And now she's going to smell, seeing who it was. Now checking, because the leopard, they'll often rub their heads up on the tree and then they'll spray urine either into the tree or onto the ground if it's a female, and they scrape their feet. So that's what she's busy smelling now. Doing a bit of a phlegm and grimace when they scrunch their face up and processing that scent. Well, let's hope it's just that smell that's maybe pulled her in there and she'll come back onto our side, but I think that's wishful thinking. And there she goes. Okay, so that was Tundi just leaving us, walking out of the frame there. Whew, that was cool, so good to see her. Okay, so now, should we just go leopard mad? Should we go see what Tabangumi's doing? I wonder if she's going to do a loop down. So the way we're driving now, Twin Dams is just up ahead there on the right hand side. So maybe she's going to do a loop in, or she's going to do a loop, I don't know, back through Little Gowrie. So bad. Oh. Where were these Impala when we needed them?
We have changed up our scenery a little bit and given Wendy a bit of a break. And I've just arrived at Sydney's Dam, and the plan is to just sit here for a little bit and listen, do our bird call challenge from here, and actually have a look at the bird that is on the water's edge at the moment. I have not seen a spoonbill here on Djuma before, and this is my first. So I got very excited when I saw that, and that's what inspired me to do our bird call challenge here today. We've left Tortoise Pan for a little bit. We came to check, and we're going to go back again just now to see if he started moving. He was very, very still. But this is what I meant earlier when I said I want to start adding to my bird list of species I haven't seen before. That includes species I've seen but not on Djuma. And so this is another big star added to my birding list again. So lovely to go. If you are a birder or you're getting into birding, if you're going to different areas and you have a decent birding app, or you can even handwrite a list, you can map out where you've seen which species and start making a lifelong list and an area list and all the things that you want to see in a specific area and you haven't, and then you can start checking them off. I'm very excited that there is a spoonbill for me to look at here today. I know that there was one at, I think, Chitwa last week. but we didn't get to see it. So I'm very happy that there's one here, everybody. Also got a lot of oxpeckers and swallows around, all flying over. It's just a very tranquil scene here. There is a herd of impalas that are scattered around the edge of the dam, but they're going down into the dip, so we are struggling to see them a bit. But I think now is as good a time as any. I know that a lot of you guessed the African cuckoo earlier with Jonty when you saw the bird and identified it. I think it's time for us to do the call. To give you a little bit of background on this, today is one of BK's favorite birds and one of his favorite calls, so it's a power duo. It is a bird that we have seen here quite a lot, especially in the last week, but it's not as common as the rest of its family members in this area. I don't know if you're going to get it, but please, if you think that you know what family it is, or if you think you know what species it is, send us an answer. I'll be waiting to hear from you. Let's see who can get today's bird call. Are you ready? Alright, let's go. Okay, so it's got a very distinct second part to its call. Not when it was going up, but when it was starting to have a bit of a trill in the voice and stabilizing. Let's see what people guess today. I'm excited to see. I don't think this one is quite as hard as Jonty's was this morning, the dark-backed weaver. But considering that we get this family of birds here a lot, but we don't as often see this member of the family, I think it's quite a special one. And I'm very happy that BK chose this as his favorite. I love how white that spoonbill is from a distance. So I don't have a monitor to appreciate the spoonbill. For me, the distance from me to that spoonbill is about, I'd say almost 150 meters. It's quite far away. But still, to me, one of the most gorgeous birds. So unusual in the feeding habits. And definitely something that I don't get to see altogether that often. One of the very few birds that's completely white. White mane, that's a pretty good guess. It is actually very similar to a blacksmith lapwing's call. It's not a blacksmith lapwing, but it has got some similar colors, and it is also tall. But that's a very good guess. Thank you, white mane. I don't know if anyone would like to hear it, but I can actually play the call of this African spoonbill. Just because we don't get to see it a lot, it's quite a rarity here, so I want to spend a little bit of time on it and give it the glory it deserves here. So I think let me play the spoonbill sound. This is not the challenge sound, everybody, but just nice to hear the spoonbill sound because it is a bit unusual. So you can hear it's more related to the storks. And you can also hear that it sounds quite similar to a roller, but a little bit more, I would say, cartoony. You know, the birds that you hear squawking in cartoons, it sounds more similar to that. I'm just so happy that there's a spoonbill here. Busy finding some food at the moment. And it is very normal to find this bird on its own, just by the way. It's not one of those birds that you want to see it in a flock like a flamingo. Victorine Smith, you absolutely got that right. It is an African grey hornbill. So this is one of BK's favorite birds. You can see it at the top there. And we've been seeing a lot of them recently while we've been out looking for tlalamba at Quarry Pan. But we don't actually see them all together that often. We normally see the red-billed and the yellow-billed hornbills. So it is a very special bird for the area. That was amazing. Well done. Excellent, excellent, excellent bird calls. It takes a long time for somebody to acquire the skill of a bird call, I can tell you that much. It takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of sometimes mnemonics, trying to think of what the bird call reminds you of when you hear it. And then from there, you can kind of start building your bird call portfolio. I would love to see if there is a reliable app that can identify bird calls. I haven't found one yet that actually works. But I would love one if there is one, because sometimes you're just sitting next to a drainage line or a dam and there's a bird calling and you just can't put your finger on what bird it is. And what a peaceful afternoon. Wow. I think we're all getting very into this birding thing. I'm very proud of everybody, because birding sometimes isn't the easiest to get into if you're not immediately drawn to birds. But I tell you right now, once you start, it grabs a hold of you. Once it bites you, you can't get rid of the bug. It's amazing. It becomes so quiet when you can no longer hear the arrow-marked babblers and crested barbets. I think I could sit here all day if it wasn't for the immense heat. As late as it's getting, normally by this time in the afternoon, it's starting to cool off. It's already 6:10. We're not even close to the sun setting. And I can tell you it's still a very balmy high 20s, if not low 30s this afternoon. Very, very hot. Okay, I've got my spoonbill fix for the day. I've got my bird call fix for the afternoon. I will have to think of a new one for tomorrow morning. And Jonty and I will have a chat tonight and see what we can find in terms of challenges. Oh, it sounds like, speaking of challenges and finding new ways, it sounds like JP has got something spotted and it might be worthwhile going over to have a look.
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. We just have an adult hyena that sneaked down the road and was watching the impalas on the plain and then decided to move off. Most likely the opportunity is not right for it at the moment. And what they'll often do is they'll suss out situations, watch animals, and look for any potential weaknesses. And if they do find that the opportunity is right and there is an animal that displays some form of weakness, they're definitely going to try and make an attempt on hunting those animals. They're actually very effective hunters, and we find that they more often actually will make kills than that we think that they do. Unfortunately, our hyena has now actually disappeared into the thick vegetation, and we won't be able to follow it any further. So it's generally thought that hyenas are the ones that always will steal from lions, but we also know that they make a large amount of their kills for themselves. And one of my favorite hunts has actually been with hyenas. I saw 3 hyenas actually pulling down a plains zebra in the past. That's actually pretty impressive how strong they are and how quickly they can kill an animal. We also find in some areas that it's actually the lions that will come and steal from them. But in general, in South Africa, we consider that where we have large groups of hyenas, where there's more than 4 hyenas for every lioness, at a kill, they can successfully outcompete those lionesses. But when it does come to a single male, large male lion being present, there's no ways that they will even try to take away the kill. Good afternoon, Catherine. Welcome to the show. They'll then stalk and they'll sit and watch, and they will see if they can find any animals that are either young or injured animals, or animals that have some form of sickness. And generally what we would consider to be normal and healthy, they'll be able to discriminate against that finest little detail that might show some form of illness or defect of that animal. And quite often what I have noticed is when it does come to the hunting, it's often young animals that they will go for. I've seen plenty of times that they actually will, in the lambing season, go for impalas, and especially young impalas. Oh, we're going to move on and go and see what else we can go and find.
I'm just going to let you enjoy this beautiful scene. This is so cool. We're actually on our way back to the area where we saw, or where we left Tavangumi, the male leopard, this morning. And this herd of elephants is up here on quarantine, feeding around the base of this marula tree for any fruits that are on the floor. So that when you look, I mean, you would normally look, it would be the biggest or oldest female that you could see in the group. That's typically who would be the matriarch. But then just by watching the herd for a while, you'll see which one sort of starts making the call. So in this group we're looking at, I'd imagine that one that's in frame, it's more than likely her. they're moving to the other marula tree. So you've always got to try and pick what's the next one, and if you can go get there ahead of them, get a treat. There's one behind us there. But the light at the moment looks so good coming through into the trees, lighting up the grass. Good afternoon, Harriet. So I've seen them get grumpy with one another, but it's not the same. It's not like a fight like the males would. Some guy in the background there must be part of a different group. There's a tiny one. I don't know if it just looks small because it's further away, but it's hardly out of the grass, that thing. Two little ones. That's very cool. Man, I can't believe it. It's actually not, it shouldn't be fair to just leave a leopard and then come to this. Yeah, Annie, it is. It's really, really cool sight. To have them out in the open like this, often in, in summer when the bush is so thick, if the elephants are in the thick stuff, it's hard to see them. So we're pretty fortunate that they're out in this open grass. Oh, marula just fell down there. Sometimes you'll see they'll actually hit the tree with their forehead and try and shake down any other marulas. It's always funny that they always go together. You don't see one that's like, I'm going to head off to a tree by myself. Yeah, they are so cute, especially when they're still trying to make heads or tails of their trunk. It's just so peaceful. It's always nice when you're watching elephants like this because they are all active and each one's doing its own thing. So just to sit quietly and just enjoy it. Oh, that trunk is an incredible tool. I wonder if you could do a trunk transplant onto a human face. Yes, I'd love to have a trunk. It would be so epic, can you imagine? Yeah, it does happen sometimes, but typically you'll see them in a family group. But every now and again you might find a cow sort of walking by herself, but the fact that we see them on their own doesn't necessarily mean that they're not in communication with other elephants that are nearby, but that we just can't see.
So I'm on a golden light kind of bumble at the moment, and we are appreciating some of the tall trees on Vuyatela access north of Sandy Patch. And my aim from here is to be heading... Go ahead.
Hello, any updates on Chitwa?
Give me 1 second, everybody. I believe Tandi is on Gari Main, just to the west of Cheetah Cut Line, and then Tortoise Pan cross into Vuyatela, just south of Impala Plains on Triple M.
Copy, man. Just confirm Tandy's lock again on Gary, mate.
West of Cheetah Cut Line. Sorry, everybody.
I'm breaking up a bit, but I've just got west.
West of Cheetah Cut Line. We've got a new radio channel, everyone, so it's a kingfisher. Alright, well, we had a kingfisher with some prey. Apologies, everyone, I don't have a monitor, so I can't see what BK is seeing. But it's a beautiful golden evening, and we're just appreciating some of the lights. I'm going to head towards Triple M from here. I'm very close to the gate, and I want to head south and just have a look if we can figure out where Tortoise Pan crossed into Juma. We left him for a bit while he was very, very sleepy, and it seems he's chosen the golden light to start moving. Oh, I can hear a woodpecker. And I can understand why Tortoise Pan chose now to move. This golden light, the sunset, insects and frogs starting to call. It's beautiful out here. So I'm going to head straight down to that area and see if I can figure out where he crossed in. He's just crossed in a few minutes ago while we were trying to rest Wendy for a bit. But we'll see if we can find him for you, hopefully with the golden sunset in the background.
That's so funny. Some of the young elephants got a bit of a fright, but look how cool this looks. We just repositioned to get the sun behind them. The herd's moving. I'm going to stick with the main part of the herd There's some young bulls here. I just love spending time with these elephants. I want to try and pick a spot so we can sit and let them walk towards us. Oh, there's quite a little grove of marulas that they're heading towards there. Oh, there's more there. There are elephants everywhere. Why do they have such a prominent spine? It might just be they're a little bit amazing. Just drove over a big old laug. So they might just be, need to eat a few more marulas. But it also depends on the way you see them. Sometimes it's just kind of in the profile. It does look a bit more prominent. The problem is none of these marulas are got a fruits. This is so cool. There's another one behind us there. Hello. Joshua, no, not that I'm aware of. Sometimes like a matriarch might pass on the throne if she gets a bit too old. A slightly younger one might take over the role, but like getting pushed out of a herd, I've never heard of that. So this elephant on the left, oh no, sorry, I'm looking at a different spot. But there's a bit of a greeting going on in front of us. Sorry. She's really had to work that one out a bit. There's a lot of elephant farting going on from these elephants. Maybe they're getting a bit of gas from the marulas. It would be, the reason you wouldn't want to go park under the tree that they're going to, it could irritate them, and you certainly don't want to irritate something that big. But also you don't want to do that because you don't want to make them not go and eat the marulas because you parked there. So depending on which area you're in, here in the Sabi Sands, we get spoilt. The elephants are very relaxed. So you can kind of get these really close-up experiences with them. Those two. I'm going to just reposition again. Oh, it's amazing. They'll probably start their first sort of time maybe early 20s as they approach 20, but normally that doesn't really last too long. And often if there are older, more mature bulls, it will actually suppress it in the younger ones. But sort of when they start hitting their 30s, that's when it starts counting. That's typically elephants that breed will only be in their 30s and up. You're getting charged by this little one here. Yes, you are very big. Very, very pleasant. I wonder if little Amelia is watching, because I know this morning she said, I want to see a leopard, but she also said elephant. So I hope my little angel is watching, because then there's elephants, cheeky bum. Oh, we're in a good spot here. It's cool, eh? We're going to stay here because this is radical, and you're going to head over to Tess.
Radical. Chauncey. Oh my goodness. I am slowly bumbling down Triple M a little bit. I'm going to turn fairly soon. I'm just south of Impala Plains, and this is the area where Tortoise Pan has crossed into Juma. How exciting. So I just want to check corrugations on the road. I just want to check quickly if we can see him anywhere along the boundary here before I go in towards Mendoza Road, Owen's favorite road, now known as Monkey Orange. Because it's quite typical for male leopards now that he started moving. He is a big territorial male. He's in the prime of his life. Go ahead for Tess.
Okay, I can get you a little bit better. I just want to get that lock up.
Everyone thinks I'm Lauren on the radio. It's just west of Cheetah Cut Line. west of Chittakatlan on Gowrie Main.
Copy, thank you.
Oh my goodness, actually BK, while I've been chatting, I've just noticed a stunning sunset, everybody, stunning. You have to see this. That's even better than it was before. So what I was saying is we're trying to check to see if Tortoise Pan is maybe doing a bit of a territorial patrol. Because it is the perfect time. That sunset is the most wonderful backdrop that we could have for a male leopard walking along in the prime of his life. Strong as anything, scent marking as he goes. And I think that's probably what he's doing. And so I wouldn't be surprised if he's gone into Djuma and then cut back towards the cut line here. But I'm actually going to turn here fairly soon because I want to go and check Impala Plains, Mendoza Road. Because if he has taken one of the predominant game paths, he might actually be headed towards the area of either Sandy Patch or Treehouse Dam area. One of the two. What a gorgeous, gorgeous skyline. I could sit here all day watching those colors change. Oh, I'm going to sneeze, I think. Mandy, it really is a mesmerizing scene this afternoon. I think we've been very lucky with the weather we've had. As much as it's been very hot, we've had some stunning views and a really gorgeous and quite an unusual sunset with that bar or that streak of sun underneath the cloud. I quite like how that orange light is catching the top clouds and then making shadows that are casting up into the sky from the clouds. And for a change, we can also see the outline of the Drakensberg Mountains. It's been so cloudy, we haven't seen many silhouettes of the mountains recently. How gorgeous. I don't really want to tear myself away from this actually, but I do not want to give Tortoise Pan too much time to move. So I think as much as I want to sit here and watch for ages, I'm going to turn around and head towards Impala Plains so that we're not giving Tortoise Pan too much time, because if he does move far, we will not find him again very easily at all. Alright, this is going to be a bit of a 5-point turn, everybody, but let's see how we go. I'm excited to see if we can find Tortoise Pan. There we go.
Just giving you a bit of a sunset view to admire and enjoy. Oh, really? We've just had these elephants walking away from us in the grass and we weren't the only ones watching them. So a colony of dwarf mongoose were enjoying the sunset as well. Looks like it doesn't like that branch by the hole. It would have had a busy little day, and now this is their sort of settling down time. So you often see them just taking in that last bit of sun. Yeah, there's a, it's sort of along the chain of evolution that these mongoose and hyenas, there's a link somewhere very far back where it splits. I must say, I've never actually seen them go up like a living tree. I've seen them climbing on like pushed over trees and sometimes dead trees where they can get in holes in that. But I've never actually seen one go up a tree. So interesting to watch how they this is part of their routine. Obviously every night, same thing. You get some that go in straight away. As soon as the sun hits the horizon, they go in and start sleeping, and then some stay out a bit longer. Yeah, I think they do bring a smile to the dial. Tavangumi. But a lot. I imagine he's been active, so I think what we'll do is go back to where we left him in the tree and then just check that road all the way to the break, to the boundary, and see if he's moved. While we continue with our plan, you're going to go join Tess, who's driving around.
Thank you, Jonty. I am officially going to nickname Mendoza Road / Monkey Orange, which is now known as Allergy Road. I need to find an appropriate word for allergies. Maybe there's a Shangaan word for allergies. I'll have to figure it out. The grass is so long. I've been on this road for all of about 30 seconds. And I can feel it already. So I have actually found tracks of tortoise pan. He was cutting down towards this section of monkey orange. But no luck yet. That being said, some of this grass is almost as tall as me, to be perfectly honest with you. Behind me here, it's just very tall grass, very thick greenery. I mean, heck, that piece is as tall as my hat. Look at that. So trying to find a leopard in this is a bit of a challenge, everybody. You can see what we're trying to look through when we're moving. Have a look how dense it is. As you're looking out to the side of the vehicle there, you can see it is incredibly thick here. We're getting to the monkey orange section, so you're about to see monkey oranges and then bush willows, and all of this is incredibly thick. So what that means for me is this is the kind of road that I always do at absolute snail pace, because it's so thick here. But I'm hoping he might be around. We've had some pretty good luck on this road with Shidulu, and his tracks are coming down this way, so maybe, you never know, he might be here somewhere. Maybe he's changed direction, done a full 180 or even a 90 degree and gone the other way in the middle of the block, and we wouldn't know. But it's worth a try. It's also a very pretty road because it's so diverse with greenery. The grass really is very long. It does make it quite tough to see. Jacob, yes, leopards will lose their teeth, so will lions, wild dogs, hyenas. All of the animals will lose their teeth as they age. They also have their normal milk teeth, which they lose as well as they're aging. So most of the predators are born with milk teeth that will come through when they're teething, and then they get to a certain age, they lose the milk teeth and the adult teeth come out. And then in older age, or even through fighting or through interactions with prey, they might lose a tooth. So I've seen many a lion with the front canines knocked out completely, especially the bottom lip, the bottom jaw, and that's from things like zebras kicking them. So they will lose them, and once they're gone permanently. The only exception to this rule is elephants. Elephants will lose teeth, but they have 6 sets to go through, so there will always be one to replace it until right at the end, the very last set. And then similar to everything else that starts grinding down, sometimes they get a cavity, that's how they chip their tusks. But ultimately, yes, as animals get older, it's similar to us, they can start losing their teeth. And then you can imagine, you know, if it was somebody like Tortoise Pan, and say he wasn't 6 years old, say he was 15 or 16 years old, which is very old for a male leopard. If he was getting to that age and his teeth were getting weak, how is he going to chew his food, and how is he going to shear through the skin to get to the muscle? He can't. He won't be able to anymore, because that's one of the most important things for predators, is it doesn't help being able to catch something, but you can't open it up to actually eat in it and chew. I think what most people don't realize is that even with us, your first step of digestion is not your stomach or your esophagus or your intestines. Your first step of digestion starts with chewing. It's called mastication. That's the official word for it. The scientific term is mastication, and it's when you chew your food. And so if you don't have teeth, it's a bit of a problem. Very, very beautiful scenery here. Apologies everybody, we seem to be having a few technical difficulties. The gremlins are out to get us after such a good day. I'm a bit jealous. But anyway, we are back. We are live on Mendoza Road. And I am wondering if I should go and check Treehouse Dam when it's still nice and light. I think that would be a good idea. I don't know the tortoise pan would move this far at the moment considering Monwati's around. But you never know, maybe we'll be surprised. I think tortoise pan definitely pulled the Tundi slip. Actually not sure where you lost me. I was bubbling on in conversation to myself. But I'm back now. Ooh, it's all of a sudden a good few degrees cooler just coming into the clearing from that thick section. And I think part of being out in the bush like this is feeling things like that and putting two and two together. Thank you so much. It sounds like I've got a bit of feedback there of where you lost me in conversation. Talking about elephants and their 6 sets of teeth. I will go back to that, but just quickly to finish my point on being out here to experience something and then putting two and two together of feeling it and understanding why animals behave the way they do. This is what helps us develop that sense of intuition. Because going from the thicket section on Mendoza Road, from the proper thickets, into an open clearing, as I came into the clearing, there was no delay. As I drove into the clearing, there was a massive drop in temperature. Because it's an open area, it's not keeping the air confined. And that's why you'll find animals on a very cold day will stay in the thickets, and on very hot days will stay in the open areas provided they're shade. But yes, elephants do go through 6 sets of teeth. And the troublesome part of all of this is that if you lose your teeth as an elephant early in life, that's okay. They're going to keep coming back until your 6th set. But by the time you get to the 6th set, it's the same as my adult teeth, your adult teeth, or a leopard's adult teeth, or a lion's adult teeth. There's only 1 set left now. And what happens when you lose those? For a leopard in particular, it doesn't help if you're still agile enough to hunt food and catch it. If you can't use your carnassial shear, your molars, to slice through the skin and kind of cut off the meat, that's where the big issue lies. So that can cause a lot of problems, and you can imagine the biggest would be weakness and starvation. And that's where the first step of digestion is. It's called mastication. It's chewing. It's not your esophagus or stomach or intestines. It's chewing. And if you can't chew, you can't digest. You can't process your food as well. So that is one of the biggest problems that especially things like elephants face. Usually with leopards, maybe like Tandy, she's getting old. She's close on, well, she's just over 15 actually, 15 and I think 3 months. If she were to start losing her teeth, if she couldn't feed, because she wouldn't actually end up dying of starvation. Most likely she would die from interaction. So that's definitely where you get some problems, because as you start getting weaker, then you will unfortunately find other animals will be able to outcompete you. And if you are in an interaction, it's not going to be very good for you. But it's a very interesting concept, you know. It would be a very different story if we could send a leopard to get dentures like humans can, but we can't. So it's something we've got to study from a distance. But usually they never get to the age where they lose all of their teeth. But a very interesting question. Thank you.
Welcome back with John T and Gert. We are just driving slowly along the boundary here, checking for any tracks. It's getting difficult now, it's obviously getting dark, but we've come to where we think the male leopard that we were with this morning, Tabangumi, where we're thinking he may be up in front of us, and then I'm going to turn around and go back and check the other way. What's that there? Those look like leopard tracks. But they don't look particularly... That looks indeed like a leopard track. So that's coming out of Djuma. But then where did he cross? Here. I think they've been driven over. Let's just go look down here a little bit. So I'm just checking this little section of road. We're busy working some tracks for Tavangumi, the male leopard. There were some at the junction behind us. They looked like they were crossing back north, but they'd been driven over on this main road. So I just wanted to come down and check here, and then we'll go back the other way. It's kind of just a last ditch effort, but I think based on his movements of late, I think he's gone straight back over.
Okay, I'm about to arrive at Treehouse Dam. I don't think we're going to find Tortoise Pan again. I think he has disappeared, possibly back north. So I might as well come and check the dam, see if there's anything along here. Oh, Wendy, I'm sorry. Wendy is moaning a little bit. But it's okay, I'm going to do my best to try and fix you up tonight, Wendy. See how it goes. I think this is probably one of my favorite sections on Djuma. Is this section surrounding Treehouse Dam. There's so many drainage lines and tall trees, different habitats with the fire breaks, and then the so exciting. And there's also the did not see that, sorry Wendy. And there's also sea plants. Very, very good for such a large diversity of animals. I wonder what we will find. I'm hoping for some elephants. There's actually not much better than elephants drinking at a dam at night. If you can sit with your lights off and just listen to elephants drink. I'm not seeing an awful lot on the side.
Lekker bezig. Sorry about losing Tessa. Maybe her and Wendy need to have a deep and meaningful conversation this evening. Get on the same hymn sheet. So now I'm just cruising slowly. Gert and I were just saying we have had a ridiculous afternoon. You know, with some really, really solid sightings. And so now whatever we get is a bonus. We're just gonna cruise. We're actually heading now back towards, or we're heading west. We'll do a loop back down Vuyatela access. Maybe we'll check that power line road junction and see if Tortoise Pan is coming this way. Maybe we'll get lucky. But yeah, we've had a cracker, so we're just enjoying it. Yuval, time of year, I love winter, just because it's not as pretty as it is now. It's not as green. The vegetation's much thinner, and often like around water points you get this like high concentration of animals, and for predators they're often active much longer into the day because it's much cooler. And even for us it's much easier to stay out longer because you're not melting your skin off in the sun. And then time of day wise, I love the late afternoon, and like once the sun's cooled down a bit. But I must say the early mornings for me are legendary. I love that sort of feeling when you're heading out and seeing what tracks have been put out on the road. What sort of mysteries are you going to unravel during the morning drive? I thought that was a leopard. Wow, sorry everyone. Tess, what have you done? Or is it Lauren? Lauren put some juju. Bit of juju on Wendy. Sorry about that, but that's cool. It means we get to hang out a little bit more. Maybe fire in a, I don't know, what are those fast five? The fast five questions. That's always pretty cool. And then a little honey badger just runs across the road. Oh, jammer. Spider web to the face. Okay, so we're now driving on Sandy Patch Road. This is kind of back towards where we started this morning, and just sort of cruising along. Yeah, I'm sorry you keep losing Tess. There must be some glitches in the system. But I think we might do a little bit of fast five. I'd like that fast five. Questions, so I'm standing by. Make sure you ask good questions. Robin, by latch, I'm just imagining a young elephant like pushing its feet together and hanging off the mom's tail. But no, they don't really do that. Sometimes you'll see they'll hold the mom's tail with their trunk, but that is, I must say, I've only really seen that in places where people have now trained elephants, so that's quite puffy. It's not exactly like the Jungle Book. This is where he was, eh, Kat? This is where we started, right here this morning. So what's interesting is, in a straight line to where Tortoise Pan was seen earlier, it's not that far. And he kind of comes into this area. Oh no, we found the stricken vehicle. That would be so good. We might have a sighting of, oh no, I've just gone mad and I will find myself later. I spotted the eyes reflecting of a herd of impala. What a palooka. Yo, Jacques, that's a good question. I mean, that obviously varies. This morning we didn't drive far at all. This afternoon we've covered a bit of ground. I don't know, maybe between 20 and 30 k's, because we do cover a lot of ground, some drives. But what I'll actually do is if we remind me tomorrow, but I'll set an app on my phone and we can do a bit of recording and actually see how far we go. I remember when I worked at Ngala, obviously it's a slightly bigger piece of land, but we would do, sometimes guys would do, I remember they would shout at us, but some guys would do like 60 to 70 kilometers in a day. That's some pretty serious driving. I've been bitten by a sack spider on my elbow. The actual bite itself wasn't sore, it was more the aftermath. Scorpion, not good. Bees, not great. But I think once it was pretty awful in a walk. I had a wasp go down my shirt and we were like 30 meters away from some rhino that were sleeping, and we had walked up and we were watching the rhino, trying to be very quiet, and then the next thing this wasp went down my shirt, and because like wasps obviously different to bees that give you one sting, they can just sting away like it's party time. So I must have got, I don't know, 6 or 7 stings down my shirt while I was trying to be quiet. The guest thought I'd gone nuts because I was just silently punching myself all over and not making a sound. So that was like an awkward moment. But yeah, fortunately I haven't been bitten by any venomous snakes. Apparently that is not ideal. I've been bitten by a horse, which was horrific. And hamsters. When I was at college, jeepers, a hamster, I think that's got to be the worst bite in history. Which animal would I not like to encounter at night? You know, I must say, I'm obviously in this sort of circumstance in a car driving around. I'm not too worried about actually anything, but I wouldn't like to have to deal with a black mamba at night. Like that would, so I wouldn't mind if we saw one on the road, that would be fine, but like if I had to deal with the thing in the dark, that would, I think, be my worst nightmare. Was that your favorite type of animal? Dung. Is that real? Dung. No. I definitely don't have a favorite type of animal dung. That's, I think if someone does, they might have a problem. That's amazing. I think my favorite type of animal dung is the one that I haven't stepped in.
So I'm sitting appreciating another gorgeous sky this evening. We have been very lucky with the colours we've been seeing. Thanks to all of the heat and a bit of dust in the air, we really couldn't have asked for better. And the moon is such a little sliver tonight, it's actually quite unusual to look at. Normally, when it's still this light out, we actually can't see the moon that well. It seems we've got the perfect combination of golden to orange to red on the horizon, and then a little bit of light in between the moon, and then going up to that dark navy blue of the sky. Absolutely gorgeous. Let's just have a listen to the sounds around us. There are quite a few insects calling, the occasional frog. I'm hoping to hear a lion roaring, or a leopard soaring, or even a hyena whooping. I feel like I put all of today's memories into the memory bank. It's been a perfect way to end my evening today.
So we've gone past that last spot where if Tortoise Pan, the leopard, had moved, that's where we gave ourselves a chance. So now we're aiming ourselves back to camp. Maybe we'll get lucky on the way, but my stomach is talking. Oh, Laura, that's a good question. It varies. I like eating a lot, so I like a bit of variety, but I don't think you can really go wrong with biltong or jerky. I'm not sure where you're asking from. If you understand what biltong is, then that's good. Otherwise it's like beef jerky, peanuts, raisins, chicken wings. I like carrot sticks too. Any fruit is good. Some of the lodges used to send us out with like cinnamon coated donuts. Oh my goodness. Those were happy days. I also ballooned. I weighed 130 kilograms from eating cinnamon donuts every day. But yeah, here like at Djuma it's pretty stock standard. There's fruit. I normally bring fruit, mixed nuts, biltong if there's biltong. Thank you very much for jumping on with Kat and I this afternoon. It was very cool. We're going to send you over to Tess and see what she's up to for the end of drive. Oh.
I agree with John T on that front. Fruit, biltong. I've never had donuts on drive, but I think that would be quite good. But I think to me it's also a little bit more about the drinks that I bring with. I like to have hot coffee. If it's really hot, I like to have iced coffee. Always water. And if I'm feeling like something specific, then I'll bring that with as well. Something like, for example, if I feel like I'm having a sugar day, then I bring Coca-Cola. But otherwise I bring watered down fruit juice or sometimes just an energy mix. I'm also a massive granola fan, so if there's granola bars, that's what I'd go for. Interesting to hear what other people enjoy on safari. Anything finger snack is very addictive. But what a stunning view for us to be sitting and appreciating. And just kind of letting the day sink in. I think we've had such a ridiculously lucky day. Not just this afternoon, but this morning as well. Tavangumi, Tandi. And this afternoon, again. Tandi, Tortoise Pan, elephants. A lot of birds. A lot of fun challenges today. So thank you everybody for being so interactive today. It was absolutely fantastic for myself and John T. And with JP as well, with the lions and all sorts of things going on. It's just been an absolute pleasure. I'm sure tomorrow will be as good, if not better. Maybe we'll get lucky and we'll have some lion action or some hyena action. But I think all round we're in for a stunning day tomorrow. At the end of every drive, what I kind of like to do is when I get a view like this, I like to sit and think what my favorite moment from the day was. Betty, I'm very happy we got to see some spots this afternoon. I think you got some better spots from Jonty than you did from me. Tortoise Pan was very sleepy and very well hidden. But we also got some spots from JP with that hyena. Absolutely lovely. But I don't know if anybody has a favorite thing from today. I think for us it's slightly different because sometimes we see things that we can't necessarily show because it moves too quickly or we don't have signal or something. But I love to think about that at the end of the day, what's been my favorite part of the day. And I think today seeing Tortoise Pan was pretty special, but I think spending so much time with Thandi this morning was really, it's the first time I've spent time with her really, on her own without my reeps. And it was so lovely to feel I have that special bonding time with her and her alone. It really has been an absolutely wonderful day to have everybody with us. And I think Jonty and BK, as much as I hate to admit it, I think they brought the good luck. And I'm hoping that Wendy doesn't have any more bad juju. I'm going to do what I can tonight to fix her up. But my goodness, it was a pleasure having you with us today. Thank you for the questions and the comments. Thank you for appreciating us. We certainly appreciate you very, very much. And it's been wonderful. It really, really has. So thank you for sharing everything. We will see you tomorrow morning. Please join us for another safari full of surprises and challenges and fun, hopefully, and a lot of banter. I think it's going to be a great day tomorrow, even better than today. Good night, everybody.